going to have a conversation today about, it's about something that we've been engaged in for a number of years. This came out of an experience, my partner and I were strategists, and we were working in the corporate environment pretty much, and the school environment, academic environment. And one of the things that was occurring was, at least for me, was I was failing. And I was failing over and over and over again and couldn't really get a handle on it. So one of the things that occurred was in the course of looking into why am I failing at strategy, because I'm doing the best Harvard Business School strategy that's available, and, you know, the one that everybody swears by and all of that sort of stuff. And it turns out 70% of all business strategies fail. I thought that was egregious. I thought there needs to be something to do about it, and still was stuck with that was the tool. That is like the official tool, because it's Harvard. And so at a certain point, I was working in a situation, and there was this fellow sitting here, kind of like you, was sitting here, and he came up to me on the break and very gracefully said, you really don't know anything about strategy, do you? So I listened to him, and it turned out, I said, oh, and you do? And he said, yes, he did. He actually was a guy who taught strategy at the U.S. Army War College. They have a better than 70% failure rate, by the way. And so I begged him to teach me the model. And he taught me the model, and in the teaching of the model, what I learned was it was really good for tanks and grenades, not too hot for people. So I spent about the next 5 or 6 months working on the model itself to make it people-friendly. So we're going to see that. And those of you who have participated with or done the strategy model at all, that is that model. That is a model that is based on the military model, but it has been tuned for people so that it works. And it works about 80–85% of the time. You do the stuff, it will work. So that was the first piece. The second thing is, what the heck is this thing about strategies failing 70% of the time? Turns out that strategies fail for one reason, and that one reason has to do with culture. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day, and indeed it does. So it doesn't matter how good it is. You go into a company and they say, here's your strategy. You look at it, it's a great strategy. It should be able to implement well, something like that, and you take it and you start to put it in. And if the culture says flavor of the month, if the culture says, not here, like that, then it will not happen. So in the world of corporate strategy, which is the glossy, glamorous thing to be doing, in that world, people come up with a new twist on it, something that's kind of cute, a little wiggle, you know, they kind of paint it pink, they do whatever they do with it, so that they can sell you on this idea of doing strategy. Essentially, it's the same thing, and the real question becomes, what's the deal about the culture? Realizing that, I realized I better become a cultural anthropologist real quick. So I started studying that. And over the course of the next 9 years, just kind of taking the data, working with the folks, taking the data and so on like that, we went through about 87 companies across the board, all kinds of different ways, profit, non-profit, for-profit, all of that. And 24,000 people were still actually running the study and running the stats and so on like that. We came up with stuff that at a certain point we hung a title on it, and the title we hung on it was tribal leadership, because we saw that stuff falls out, conversations fall out, people's way of operating with one another falls out in something that you could only look at it and go, that's tribes. So we're going to take a look at that, and today is an opportunity. I know that you've read the book, or a lot of you have, and today is a day for us to kind of get down to the bedrock of where it is, where you're in the room with the guy who made it up. And by the way, I made it up. You know, there's nothing true about anything that I'm saying. You want to be really clear, I don't hold any of this to be the truth, okay? I do not have a pipeline to the divine on this one, okay? What I got is a bunch of stuff that I saw, and what a reasonable person, really a reasonable person would go, that looks like this. And so it's just kind of how it rolls out. Why we did it that way is because I want it to be accessible to bright people. Now, you don't necessarily have to be trained as a cultural anthropologist or even an academic. In fact, that's probably something you'd have to overcome. That's what I find. What you can do, hi. We're not even noticing you. It was so cool the way it got in, you know? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch on something that we call leadership by design. I want to say what I mean by that in a sense. So there's two worlds. One of the worlds is called the throne world, and the other one is called the designed world. Okay? Throne world is like you take dice, and you roll dice, and whatever number comes up, comes up. Most people do their lives and their businesses thrown. Okay? Throne is, for those of you who have read this, stage 2 and stage 3. Okay? Design is something that occurs at stage 4. That is something that is conscious, something that you've got to actually kind of figure out, what do I want to do here and what am I going to choose? The dividing line between stage 2 and stage 3 is the dividing line between your appetites and your addictions and your core values. What's going to be driving the boat? Okay? So we're going to be talking and we're going to be separating and sorting that way all the way through. I think it'll make sense, and, get involved. All right, this is a wide open kind of conversation. Get involved. We'll talk about it. Where I intend to go today, the purpose of today, is to stabilize MeetingMatrix at stage 4. Okay? Now, I know that there's a kind of a thought. I've heard it, that you're already stage 5. We call that stage inflation. It is actually a joke. I'm glad you liked it. Okay? Let's see. Let's see where we are, okay? You will notice yourself in here. This is a kind of come to Jesus kind of conversation for some folks, you know. This is one of those ones where you have the conversation, you go, oh, that's actually me sometimes. When we talk about the stages, particularly stage 2, 3, and 4, and we'll get to that in a little while, but when we get to those stages, you will recognize yourself, well, like, you know, when I go to church, I'm here, you know, and when I'm hanging with my friends, I'm here. And when I go over and I play pool with my buddies, I'm here. Okay? So you'll find that you kind of go up and down, you know, in the stages, that there is no is stage 4. There is what we just are humans. We're going in and out and up and down all the time. But knowing that is powerful, because what you can do is you can actually design, where am I going to participate in my work? Where am I going to actually build my company, so to speak? The punchline to everything is stage 4. I want to start out with a little bit of Maslow. Most people know this. So you can see, kind of, by the way, this is one of the most unusual designs for a room I've ever worked in, but I'm so not surprised, given it's you. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A lot of people are familiar with this, so you can kind of follow along. At the very beginning here, when baby is born, we have to deal with their physiological needs. You have to get food, shelter, clothing, and we're now saying education is part of that mix as well. So handling that, that's what baby is born into. Somewhere that's taken care of. The next thing is safety. Baby, before baby comes into language, which is where we start generating and inventing our life and our world, before baby comes into language, they are aware whether it's a safe environment or not. If there's a lot of noise in the household, if there's a lot of fractious stuff going on in the household, baby actually picks that up. They actually understand that this is not a safe place to be, okay? So safety is something that has to be in the environment. Once babies come into language, now the real job of parenting begins, which is socializing baby. So they come in, maybe, you know, where they're handling more than just a word, more than dada, you know, or food, more than that, but they can actually fragment a few things together, maybe around the age of 2, 2.5, 3, something like that, depending on the baby. We start the process of socializing them. So the socializing occurs in a couple of layers. One is up to about age 11, and it's all about family, your siblings, you know, learning how to, you know, this is my parents, this is where I'm stable, this is my actually nuclear triad, mommy, daddy, me, okay? I'm the center of the world, but I'm living in a world where it's all about siblings, it's my brothers, it's my sisters, so on like that. Somewhere around 11, 12 years old, they go out, you graduate from elementary school, baby goes into middle school, junior high, something like that, and they get into a different deal where it's dealing with siblings, it's dealing with peers, and developing a powerful relationship to peers and to authority figures. This is at the age of 18, maybe 20, 21, depending. maybe in today's market, 34 years old, where they leave and they go into the world, okay? And in that, they can be effective members of society. So the social piece is critical. That's what parents lease their kids for. So next piece is esteem. Child comes along, they're 35 years old now, they come into the doctor, they say, I have esteem issues. The doctor goes, really? Esteem issues? Huh. Where did you make that up? You read a book. Oh, I got it. Okay, you read it in a magazine. Okay, so what do? They actually, if you're a psychologist is good, the therapist is good, they start drilling down. They start looking into this area, seeing if there's any holes in your game there. If not, they'll go right down to there. And actually, they'll go right down to there, okay? And what they'll do is fill in the holes in the game of the person and build them right back up so that what they've got is a place or a platform to stand on to get at their birthright. Your birthright is self-actualization. Not everybody gets there. In fact, relatively few get there because they don't handle all the stuff that comes before. Now, this is an important principle. The filling in the holes in the game is an important principle. Now, turns out that Maslow did a lot of work, and he was an interesting guy. He was a psychologist who graduated out, and he decided he did not want to work with cuckoo people. He decided he wanted to work with people who were champions. He wanted to study people who were happy, and people who were fulfilled, and people who were producing. So that's what he did. This was an amazing shift in the world of psychology. It actually invented a field called humanistic psychology. So, next thing.